Now this is the first time I've seen your pictures. I'm quite familiar with Gordon's work, and Gordon being an Aboriginal artist, and a lot of his stuff deals with the whole concept of invasion and land rights and justice. But I haven't seen your work. Now, what, for those who are listening, what is basically your practice as a photographer?
Well, I'm a documentarian. I believe that I began photographing in the 70s when not many people were interested in the land rights movement that was taking place in front of Parliament House. Older people, you know, holding signs, and I didn't see a camera person there, not a TV person and I'm from Florida in America, where I came here in 71, where the civil rights movement was very, very strong. So I was a high school English teacher. I immigrated here as a teacher, so I became a photographer out of wanting to keep the history, if you will.
So you saw a need to record the history, and that, so you hadn't been much of a photographer before then?
No, but my dad was a photographer, and I did actually develop black and white photographs in the attic because it smelled badly, and my mom hated that. And he did that during the war, at the end of World War I, and during World War II. He was a medical person, but also a photographer.
There's an interesting array of pictures here, and including the struggle for equal rights, as well as one of the things I was quite surprised to see was the formative years of Bangarra.
Yes, the early years of Bangarra. A lot of people don't understand that AIDT was the first little group that started by Carol Johnson in the 70s, 76.
AIDT?
Aboriginal and Islander Dance Theatre. And that group now is the one that runs NASDA. The founding members, some of them, and just a little bit later on, like Raymond Blanco, Professor Raymond Blanco in 1984, he graduated. He's artistic director now, I think is his title in NASDA. And out of NASDA, bringing it back to what you said, NASDA is where Bangarra came from. So Stephen Page was a graduate of NASDA, of AIDT, what it was called at the time. And I believe that then when I was taking pictures, they were funded to do a little newsletter called Kuribina, and we'll see those newspapers just over there. So they didn't have anyone taking photographs for that little newsletter, so I did that and supplied. And they let me know when things were on, and I took pictures. I began to take more and more pictures. So in '86, I started my first photographic lab in King's Cross, and then I was able to actually print pictures and give everybody pictures of themselves, and I enjoyed doing that.
Okay, let's have a look at some of the pictures, and maybe you can talk us through some of them. You pick some out. I'll leave it totally up to you.
Okay. Let's ignore that one for the moment because that's a fundraising one there. In this picture here is the principal dancer is Russell Page out the front here, and he's no longer with us. A terrible ordeal, terrible way to pass away. But many of the people in a lot of these pictures are deceased, and I get a bit teary, so I really cared about Russell Page. Just recently, David Page passed away as well, and that was his brother. And so Stephen is still with us, and I'm so proud of Stephen graduating and sticking with Bangarra for so many years and making it an international and a wonderful, wonderful internationally acclaimed dance troupe that's known all over the world. And
I've interviewed Stephen a couple of times, and I am quite a fan of Bangarra. Bangarra is amazingly high quality and incredibly accessible stuff as well.
I think that we owe that high level of dance, expertise and exquisite choreography, and based on traditional people, where the NASDA brings in the traditional people from all over Australia, different groups, and the Torres Strait Islands. and they incorporate their culture and they intertwine and accept and teach their students about that traditional way of dance, and then they let their students create their own choreography. For instance, that is a picture of Stephen Page right over there in the corner with a white frame. I think that he did that. Stephen choreographed that. I'm not sure what the name of it was, but I know that he did the choreography for the first Ochres, which was in the early 90s. And I did take pictures of that. I've got some in here. The one on the invite is Stephen dancing in the first Ochres, yeah. And he was actually the principal dancer and had Jacopura come down from Yirikala. And that first Ochres was just a fantastic show. Helped Bangarra on its way up, you know. And Stephen actually choreographed that. So I think it's hard to realize that somebody that's a director did the choreography too.
I suppose if you're going to be in that sort of profession, you're going to have your heart in it. Now, I like this picture here.
Okay.
We're looking at a bloke playing the piano, and there's a gorgeous woman sitting on top of it. It is a classic jazz photo.
Yes, it is. And you see, this one here that I was talking about before is a Billie Holiday repertoire. So you have to understand that some of the choreography that Carol Johnson chose and brought in other choreographers was from America, but also from Papua New Guinea, from South Africa. So we have a mix here of all these different, I'd say, types. I think that the guy sitting at the piano is no longer with us, and I flew to his funeral and took pictures of that.
I mean, there's a story there in that, you know, like these stories of these pictures. How old is this one? It's 1984. It's just over 30 years. And you know, I was an adult by 1984. People dispute that, but I'm still here. Yeah. You know, and there's a message in that as well that many of these people are no longer with us.
Well, Baru, his name's Philip Langley. His mother gave me permission to always use his picture because although he was born in Mornington Island, he did live with a foot in two worlds. So after he graduated from AIDT, he became a teacher and taught at TAFE and different schools and part of a theater group that were teachers. And he passed away. He died of a heart attack dancing in a hotel here in Sydney. And you know, we just didn't know that he had a high cholesterol, and he was so loved. I loved him.
Yes, I can understand. Let's have a look at this one. I like this one, the white frame, and the colours are quite subtle, and it's you could argue that it's underexposed, but you get this real sense of movement in it. Tell us about this one.
Okay, this is Malcolm Cole. He was one of the very early, if not a founding member of AIDT, of Aboriginal Islander Dance Theatre. And Malcolm was a very special person because he stayed working with and teaching many years after. And he's no longer with us. This was actually out at La Perouse, and he called it a leap for freedom. and La Perouse is a significant place in Aboriginal history. Yeah, he asked me to come out there and take some pictures of him, and we, you know, when I agreed to do that, I felt a little bit like, and it was an honor to be. I don't know how to do it, to share with the world, and I felt a real responsibility to keep these photographs safe, as well as the paintings in our collection, you know, not just, and the boxes of photographs are not like with the digital now. It's very difficult to keep the slides, and that one is from a slide. And
it's beautiful, like he's totally in full flight, he's flying. Let's have a look at some of these street pictures. Now,
Okay.
What's this? This looks like Redfern, is it?
Yep, this is Everly Street before, when the houses were still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was 1981, I believe, the official opening of Merowena by Mrs. Ingram, Mrs. Bostock, and Mrs. Merritt. And the Aboriginal dancers came from over at the Glebe Hall to dance in the street. And they had some traditional people there as well. And it was the first time that the Redfern community really saw right in the community that what they were doing over in Glebe at the church there. And it was a very exciting time as well to be able to be there and take those pictures. You can see that I can't see any white people in the audience, and I felt like it was a strange feeling sometimes, like when you go to a knockout, you're the only white person there.
But then, when they start calling you cuz, it becomes a little bit different.
Well, I've never really been called cuz, but some people do call me auntie.
That's an even bigger honour.
Yeah.
Let's go and brave the traffic.
Okay. And
some of these pictures
okay.
out on Elizabeth Street.
And Chris, this is Trevor. Trevor is a fellow that I took pictures of meeting in March one time.
All right.
He just happened to come by here. Yeah.
Okay. We're looking at some more pictures from some of the dancers, including, and this is obviously from the Billie Holiday review.
It is, yes. And that's Bernadette Waylong. Yeah, Waylong. She's great dancer still. Even though she graduated probably in the, I'm trying to think, 80s.
And they've got more pictures of Redfern. I meant to ask you while we're around the corner, when were those Redfern pictures taken? Because I know it's Everly Street, but it's a long time.
81.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah. And the reason why Sylvia here, the lady playing the drums, she looks so proud because there are some Redfern children participating and dancing. So she looked so proud of the children that she was teaching. There's another one further down where she was teaching in La Perouse. Guitar.
Okay, which one? Oh, this
that
one
one.
here. Okay, let's go.
Okay, Gaetano Bon is dancing right here in the forefront of this one. Raymond Blanco is the director now, the teacher in NASDA that I spoke about earlier. Gaetano Bon is a famous musician in Brisbane, and as many, what I'd like to say is that even though a lot of these people graduated from dance, 3-4 years of dance, or even if they just attended one, it changed their lives forever. You know, when you think about it, Christina Anu, graduated from NASDA, and Marichu Berenbaugh, opera singer. Many of the many musicians attended or graduated from NASDA, and whatever they did, whatever the dance students did, they went back to their community. They gave back. They were a role model. They started dance groups everywhere. Some of them even in London, New York, but always remembering their community.
And underappreciated in the white community, except for Christina Anu's on the radio now, which is, I like, she's good fun. It's one of these things that strikes me about, like, let's call it discrimination or exclusion or whatever you want to call it. It's just not taking up a valuable resource there, that these people have talent and we should be seeing it.
Yes, and I think that's why Bangarra was started, because everybody wanted them to come and perform somewhere, but they wanted them to come and perform free, or to just join the community of Sydney rather than being professional, which is what Carol Johnson was trying to prove, is that Aboriginal people can join the ballet, they can join the jazz, they can join any group of drama, talent. You know, some of the teachers, like Aku Kadalgo, Bob Mazza, Ernie Dingo is one of these pictures here, dressed like an old man, because he was playing the part of Kakadu Man. And I think just further on there, just a little bit further on there, some of these Gary Lang, and this is the.
Okay, hang on.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Now, which one?
This one's Gary Lang. It was actually a bullfighter dance.
Oh, right.
Yes.
So the Aboriginals are matador.
I think that it's just sort of a a smattering of all sorts of different choreography. Perhaps sometimes what the students wanted to do, and how they chose, or what was important to them. And many times, as you can see over there too, that's Lester Bostock on the front of that newspaper over there. Mum Cheryl Gary Foley in the corner there. And so if you look at them, they did poetry, for instance. So they had to learn writing more under the direction of Bobby Sykes, Dr. Roberta Sykes, ran the newspaper then. Later, Jerry Bostock was the editor.
It's an amazing documentation of the development of some contemporary Aboriginal culture.
I believe so, and it's part of our keeping place, which is that sign there that says the keeping place is 1972 to 2010, because that was made by the museum, Australian Museum, but it's really 2016, and as Professor Larissa Barrett just announced on Sunday afternoon.
Let's go somewhere a little bit quieter.
Okay.
Let's go back in here.
I'll just show you one. That's okay. Sylvia right there teaching at La Perouse School. See the little kids? So.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
So
hang on. So they've got these interesting pictures down here. Tell us a little bit about these ones.
Well, for instance, the dancers always did participate in the community. Nasa did in the early days, especially, and that's Sylvia Blanco. She's teaching at little children at primary children in La Perouse School. And I went along and look how the light is so beautiful coming in, the natural light. I think I'm proud of Sylvia and all the other ones that went out into the schools and did extra things. They weren't paid for it usually, but they cared about Aboriginal children everywhere, and they still do.
And I think you should be proud of these photographs. Now, let's move